One question a lot of newer judges ask me is, how exactly do I decide messy debates? Debates where everything just seems to go wrong and it's really hard to determine who won. This video will explain some tips that I'm about to give you about how to decide those messy debates, things that you can keep in mind when you come across these debates. So what kind of debates am I talking about exactly? There are three kind of cases which together kind of make messy debates. The first case is debates where individual speakers are unstructured or unclear. Maybe the way they explain things isn't quite understandable because the way they explain it isn't as optimal. Or maybe because their speech is just so messy in of itself internally, it's difficult to follow that speech and take notes and actually think about how that speech fits into the debate. The second case is debates where teams fail to directly engage with each other. Both teams have arguments, but there is limited rebuttal, which makes it really hard for you to weigh up which team won. And lastly, there are many debates where a lot of arguments are made on either side, but it is actually unclear what actually wins the debate. And that might be because there are missing impacts, or because the arguments are made parallel to each other, or because the harms and benefits both teams introduce may coexist, but it's difficult to determine which world at the end of the day is actually better. So here are a few tips I would give as to how you can decide these kind of debates. The first thing, and this is something you can do in the debate, is you want to make notes not just on what speakers are saying, but as the speakers are speaking and as you're taking those notes, you want to make notes kind of commentating on the debate, right? So for instance, if someone gives a few pieces of rebuttal, but they didn't rebut a key argument or a key premise of the other team, I might write in red pen, this rebuttal does not respond to that key argument. Or for instance, if somebody is, say, strawmanning the other team and not being nuanced enough, I might make a note saying that this is not nuanced. Making these kind of meta commentary notes can be very useful for you because later down the track, you don't want to do all the meta thinking at the end of the debate. It's far easier to make those notes throughout the debate. So when the debate gets more and more complex and more messy, you still have a clear head and a good track of what exactly has been happening and what your evaluation of the debate has been so far. The second tip is, and this is for speakers which are very messy and have very little structure, is that you can often derive a structure in your notes even where speakers don't have good structure. For instance, there might be I know there are some very well-trained speakers who might be like, I have X harm and there are 5 mechanisms for this. Firstly, secondly, thirdly. And those kind of speeches often make life really easy for you because you can just write like A, B, C and take down those mechanisms one by one. Sometimes you'll have speakers who are a bit more messy or a bit less structured or maybe have a different way of approaching their speeches. That's not to say you should just discount what they're saying because they were messy. You should obviously still try to take notes on what they're saying. But what often can be helpful is to derive a structure for yourself. So for instance, somebody might elucidate 3 distinct harms in their speech, but they don't say firstly, secondly, thirdly. They kind of just give a rant and later on it becomes clear that those are the 3 main harms. You should try to identify that, right? So one thing I might do is go back and underline those distinct harms and where they are in that speech. That way, when I'm looking back at my notes, it's easy for me to be like, well, first affirmative said these 3 main harms. And that also makes your OA easier because you don't have to go searching within your own notes to find those kind of details. Sometimes in debates, there is a lack of direct engagements. Teams haven't identified what exactly they need to rebut and signposting like, I am responding to X point. In this instance, sometimes there are forms of implicit engagement. For instance, a team might have a form of setup that precludes the other team, or a team might, have some substantive material with preemptive engagement that you can take in account. Note, this is very different to entering a debate and assuming teams have said certain things. You can't judge a debate on what teams might not have said, but you probably thought they said. Implicit engagement should still come in the form of something that they have said, but maybe has not been flagged as explicitly responding to another thing. The fourth thing is often you need to search for impacts to determine who won a debate when lots of arguments are made, but it's unclear mechanistically which team, won that debate. These impacts can look like things like teams explaining why a stakeholder is particularly important, or explaining why an impact lasts for a relatively long time, or why a benefit they introduce is unique and is the only way to solve a problem. Searching for those impacts can help you retrospectively decide who won that debate, even when mechanistically clashes are very difficult to solve. Finally, and this is a neat tip for when you're struggling after the debate and you're struggling to decide who won. Often what you want to do is just go back and look at the first speaker's speeches. And the reason why you want to do that is partially because first speaker speeches are usually the most structured and the clearest within the debate, so it helps you get a big picture of what actually happened. But secondly, I think a lot of judges tend to focus too much on the responsive speakers and the last kind of thing that they saw, and take the thematic structure of third speakers as the given summary of the debate. I think you should not do that, and you should be looking back at the earlier speakers, seeing what they've contributed, seeing what's been missed from the debate, seeing the material that they've given which is yet to be responded. By looking back at the first speaker's speeches, it gives you a clearer mind of where the debate has progressed, but also gives you a holistic look at what exactly happened in the debate. And this could be the key to solving some of those messy debates where it's really, really hard at the end of third negative to just give a win to a particular team. So keep that in mind.